Hello BookTube and welcome to the Classics tag video. I found this tag on Steve Donoghue's page, and since I don't know who the original creator is, I'm just going to link to his video down below in the comments. I hope you like the change in setting. I wanted to try out a different lens on my camera, one that I can't really use up in my office due to limited space, so I thought I would come downstairs and give it a shot. So let's get to the questions. Number 1. An overhyped classic you really didn't like. The first book that comes immediately to mind is Catcher in the Rye. The book itself wasn't bad per se, but the character of Holden Caulfield is really grating and annoying. I don't like him at all. I think he's a terrible character, which in a way means he might be a good character because it makes me feel something about him, but I just don't like him. Number 2. Favorite time period to read about. I don't really look at this from a classics point of view. In general, historical period that I enjoy reading about would be the last couple hundred years of the Roman Republic and the shift into empire, and the birth and expansion of the Mongol Empire. Fascinating subjects for me. Number 3, favorite fairy tale. Don't really have a favorite fairy tale. Number 4, which classic are you embarrassed you haven't read yet? I actually picked 3 different books for this question. The first would be The Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio, I think that's pronounced. The second would be Xenophon's Anabasis. And the third would be The Epic of Gilgamesh. And like in Steve's video, it just depends on what you define a classic as. I'm going to use a really loose definition of classic, not limited to just Greek and Roman works. So while Anabasis would fall into Greek and Roman works, Epic of Gilgamesh and the Decameron don't really fall in there. The Epic of Gilgamesh gives me a really sore spot because in college many years ago I took one of your entry-level literature courses. It was a world literature course, and I got a book on world literature, and that was one of the first times I had ever heard about, seen, or read anything about the Epic of Gilgamesh. And one of the reasons I have it on here as a classic is because, as far as I know, it's one of the first written epics. I could be wrong about that, but it just always stuck out to me. I really like that story for some reason. The little bits and pieces that I do know of it without having read it. Number 5. Top 5 classics you would like to read soon. I'm going to have to go with The Picture of Dorian Gray, Les Mis, The Brothers Karamazov, the Sherlock Holmes books, and the Finnish national epic, the Kalevala. Favorite modern book or series based on a classic? This was a little hard until I remembered one of the books that I actually own. It's a book written by Stephen Baxter called The Time Ships, and it's actually a authorized sequel to The Time Machine, just kind of pushed out into the future a little more. If any of you have ever read Stephen Baxter, you know that the scope of his stories is somewhat vast at times. So this, while I haven't read it at all yet, I do own it. I'll eventually get around to it. This probably has a similarly vast scope to it. Number 7. Favorite movie or TV series based on a classic? My choice for this one is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The movie. Because the story for this movie is loosely based around the Odyssey, and it's just such a weird tale to have based around the Odyssey. If you've never seen the movie, it's a Coen Brothers movie, I believe, and it's very, very good. It's probably one of the only Coen Brothers movies I've ever seen, much to some people I know's chagrin. Number 8, worst classic to movie adaptation. I haven't seen too many classic to movie adaptations, but the one that sticks out the most with me right now is The Count of Monte Cristo. The only one I've seen is starring Jim Caviezel and Dumbledore, I believe. One of the actors who played Dumbledore is the old man in the prison. Number 9, famous editions you'd like to collect more classics from. I was a little confused as to what this question was actually asking, so I went with what made sense to me, and that is like book editions. So my choice was the Penguin Classics editions of books. You probably can't see them, they'll probably be blurred out a little bit behind me, but I do have a good handful of them back there on my bookshelf. I think I have Poetic Edda, the Prose Edda, I think the Kalevala, the Rig Veda, the Dhammapada, the Upanishads, and maybe one or two other books that I can't think of right now. The Two Lives of Charlemagne, that might be one of them. I have a handful of them. I like the way they put those together, and I like the covers and the way they line up and everything. Number 10, an underhyped classic you'd recommend to everyone. I don't have a good answer for this question. I feel incredibly underversed in classics that I've read, so I don't feel like I'm in a position to necessarily recommend any to anyone. So that's all the questions for this tag video. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite classics are. And thank you for watching. And as always, I'll see you next time. Turn that fucking mic off.